vendor or select just in general about what you've heard about what we might want to do about parks in our schedule and what you've heard on the park committee?
I mean, the highlight that I hear today is it's very important that you guys get some type of master plan in place. It certainly does help us when we go to the public and tell them why we're doing certain things. We have that document to do that. So, and then we can always come back and put on council saying, this is the approved document by council. It's not me deciding. It was through public vetting, public meetings that these were what you wanted in the park system.
How long did it take you to create that master plan?
It was a 6-month plan originally, but it turned into about an 11-month process because we, just like you guys will go through, you'll have a lot of different opinions as you go through the park system planning, and you'll have your own ideas of what you want to have in your park system, and so we wanted to make sure that whatever we came up with, the community really felt like we had a lot of buy-in into it. So when we came to council, we weren't quite there yet. We got came back, we tweaked it some more, and brought it back, and tweaked it some more until we got to the final product. So it took a little bit longer than we had originally intended. But our plan did include green space acquisitions and demographic study and looking at what populations are in what areas of the city and what types of parks we need to put in those areas depending on the population. So there's a lot more involved in just looking at the existing parks and redesigning them.
And question for you, how important is it?
Basically, any questions we ask him, we can ask the other folks.
I think you'd need to.
Okay.
I just think that if you're going to have to,
Open fair bidding, right? We just stop it there.
they can answer all your questions in an open presentation for all of them.
Yeah.
This is an easy one. How important is it to have a parks director lead in the process of creating that master plan? I mean, is that something that's a critical item that should be done before the development of the master plan, or is it put the parks director after the master plan?
I think you need to have the parks director in place when you go to the plan. I mean, the main thing about that person, they're going to be your face for parks and recreation. It's going to be important that the city see, the citizens see the city's desire to move forward with parks, and it's important to you. And that they're going to be the one that is there at every meeting, introducing your parks master plan company or firm that's going to develop it. So, and they're the ones that are going to have a lot of one-on-one impact discussion with that firm that's doing the design work too, because they're going to be getting feedback directly from you guys and from the city manager. Yeah. So they kind of serve as the bridge between city manager, staff, council, and the firm that's designing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sure. Anything else real quick? We got just a couple minutes.
One more.
I want to just circle back for 1 second. Page 51, the Citizens Park, you don't have to look at it, but the advisory council for citizens, I think the sooner you do that, the more help you'll get, the better it will be for this whole process.
I think we looked at that when we were doing the report, and June looked fine, and we're like, no, now that's too late. Now that we've got a break.
We moved it
We moved it
to the first quarter from June.
There's no cost involved.
It's free labor, and it's keeping the community involved and knowing that we're in the works and things are being done.
There is one more urgent contract issue. It doesn't relate to money, but it does relate to potential park usage, and that is the Brookhaven Service Center at Brookhaven Park.
Where that? Yeah.
Okay.
One clarification to the report. Parkside is District 2.
Yeah. We do have the new report has been updated. We did make that amendment and correction.
I just want to thank you all. This is just an incredible resource. I'm aware of thousands of hours that have gone into this. It's just a great work, very informative to document all this. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep showing us why you're.
Let us know things that come up. You have our emails. Let us know.
Thank you. We know you are, and that's, you're the first citizens committee that's presented to the council.
Thank you. It's from here.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Stick around. You want to hear some other stuff. IT.
I was gonna say, if anybody wants to leave, feel free to, so we can, we won't be offended if you.
Right. IT, Bob Mullen, and Wolf.
Mr. Mayor, while I'd like to speak on the IT department's behalf, I am not a representative of InterDev, but we've been working together in this past week very intensely on trying to make sure all communications between everyone here in the city and outward facing from the city to external contacts. I know that Gary has been working tirelessly, and InterDev has been a fantastic asset since the very instant and even before the city came up. So I'll defer all the IT info to InterDev, but I'm happy to talk about communications, PR, and community outreach and involvement in any way that the council wants.
Could you talk a little bit about the website? We're thrilled that you've got a good website up right now. It's obviously the first look.
Sure.
As it evolves. We anticipate that Jacobs will continue to build us a robust website.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are the prime drivers of both style design as well as content. I think the style design aspect is just a little bit of icing for right now, and the cake is going to be developed behind it. Once we get a little bit further on a branding and visualization strategy for the city. But the content is really important right now. From my conversations with you, you have stated that visibility and transparency are absolutely important. And what we're trying to do right now is drive the content from these meetings and discussions that are going to be of interest for citizens and residents to find out what's happening, how our city is developing, what the mayor and council have been doing to try and make sure that everything is in place and off on the best foot possible. And communications has been, within that website, a big part of what we've been working on.
How do you envision that process of building the web and the logo and the branding? What's the time frame on that? How does that evolve?
Well, I think after discussions with both council as well as city manager and deputy city manager, I think the whole branding and visualization development is a process that will need your input as well as our recommendation, as well as citizen input, to make sure that we're all in lockstep going forward on what the character of Brookhaven is and how that might best be represented through a logo, through a tagline, if so desired, through the type of approach and style that we bring to everything from business cards to letterhead to the website to presentations that might be happening in every element of communication. But we're looking at a timeline. I would probably say that some of that heavy lifting and research needs to be done in the first quarter and the second quarter of 2013 in terms of getting all the information from the public as well as council.
Are there sites that you build or sites that you're aware of that you would consider to be good examples of a very interactive city website that we can sort of poke around and see what kind of things we're going to be both looking for and expecting?
Sure.
And also what sort of information you guys have put out there in previous situations?
Sure, absolutely. Well, City of Dunwood website is one example that we're managing. Definitely take a look at that. And I have other examples that I can share with council afterwards to say, here are some good sites you might want to look at, sites that maybe we haven't developed, but sites that are out there that we're trying to model some of our planning and strategy.
I've got a question on communications. I'm working on an update just to send out to my list and to anybody else's list, kind of a mayor and council update. I'd like to do it in the next week if we can. I don't know if it's easier. But how do we go from this point forward, communicating with the citizens of Brookhaven? We don't have an email list yet. We don't have. I want to get, and we would rely on the papers, newspapers, but I'd like to be able to really connect. We have a Facebook page. We're going to do that too. And I don't know about Twitter, but I really would like to have a way people can get updates from us frequently because I feel antsy. I want to let people know all the things we're doing.
Sure, and it's critical. And yes to your two questions, yes, there is a Facebook page that was just started this week, and there is a Twitter account that started just this week as well. So,
We give you our tweets and you tweet out, or
well, it would be a
Never tweeted
tweet
before.
posting on behalf of the city. For example, some of the postings that we've had to Facebook and to Twitter this week have been, look forward to seeing you at our next city council. Time, place, date, linking it back to the website as well. It's another thing that we want to do, is make sure that folks are going back to the website. But as you're talking about a database collection process, we have a contact us form on the city website, which sends in information for people to fill out the form, email, address, maybe what district they are, et cetera.
you haven't filled it out yet.
But yes, we've actually had a rough estimate is probably we've received anywhere from 20 to 40 emails and inquiries. We are gathering that information and keeping that in the database so that when we have future outreach, whether it's your monthly update from the mayor and council or a weekly newsletter, we're going to be making sure that that's put out in the citizens' hands. We're opting in and want to receive that information.
Is there any reason, I was thinking of pushing out that link in the email that I might send out to my district. But is there any problem with the fact that our site's going to change to the .gov?
Yeah, what's the timeline for that, by the way, too?
It's a little confusing.
It is. And for those of you that I think everybody's familiar with, hopefully we're going for brookhavenga.gov. There's been some verification processes that InterDev has been spearheading to actually tell the federal government that manages those documents. We're actually a city. But once we get there, we will make announcements about the transition. But I think in the interim, we still need to push to our existing site. And when we make that change, we can make a large announcement and definitely ensure that all of your communications to the folks in your district, as well as to others in the media and out where blasted out.
I have one more question about the logo and branding.
Sure.
I've seen cities do it in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's a completely separate contract, an ad agency, or sometimes it's a citizen pro bono, you look at the community. Tell us what the options are here.
Well, I think you just touched on the two. We can, as Jacobs, we can start a process internally. We can go and work with another outside firm, be it an ad agency or an agency whose expertise is solely in brand development and design. We can also request that we work with citizens groups. I've heard great success stories of pro bono activities of, I'm a designer, I live in Brookhaven, I'm passionate about the new city, I want to help it anyway. That's wonderful.
That's my
Please share those names. But I think at the heart of it, I think the involvement from residents and citizens is going to be huge. So if there is a local design firm who has already good knowledge about what's going on in Brookhaven, and I've even heard, we want to do with our brand, or what our brand should be, or what our brand should say, it's very important to tap into those.
What's the timeline for that? Because we'd like to get out and start engaging citizens. Hey, I don't know if it's an RFP, but just a call to any designers or design firms in Brookhaven.
I think first sitting down with council as well as city manager and deputy city manager to talk about strategy. I think that's the first thing we need to do. But timeline for that could be first week in January. We establish a strategy. Then we start to go Q1, really get that ball rolling, and then Q2.
Art, did you want to add to that? I'm Art Freeman. I'm the new interim executive director for the Brookhaven Chamber of Commerce, which will come into existence on January the 3rd. I'm also the architect of the IT superstructure and infrastructure for the city, and I wrote the RFP, and I work very closely with InterDev on IT. Let me address first what, as a chamber, we want to bring to the table. We've been discussing the ID kit, or corporate ID kit, which is what the character, flavor, and feel of the city should be to the citizens of the city, not just for the business community, but as well as for the residential community. We are prepared to do that pro bono for the city of Brookhaven as an initiative within the chamber. We currently have a membership list of approximately 250 folks because the chamber is coming from an organization was called the BCC, which was the Brookhaven Community Connections Entity.
Let's focus on the logo for the city of the community. I understand and appreciate your help, but I think at some point we need to, while we need the business community very much involved, I think we need to today sort of focus on the needs of the city and what we should do from a branding standpoint, working with our vendors and working with our folks to get that process up and running. And I guess I'd like to hear more, about, and I'm sorry, hear more about what Jacob's plans are, as far as going forward and to sort of follow up on Rebecca's if we do something that is try to get some citizen input and try to get some folks involved, that needs to be very specific. We need to let the Jacobs to put together almost an RFP for private or for people, individuals in the community or whatever. So we have some very specific parameters, time frame, and other things that we're working within, so that Jacobs leads the effort and coordinates that, so that at the end of the day we have something that is worthwhile, but also more importantly workable within the context of the larger communication framework that you're building for the city. To the extent that the chamber can work with Jacobs, I think that'd be a great thing. But we need to make sure that we have some parameters established that keep that within the city, rather than beginning to outsource it very early possible.
Mark, if you want to finish up with your minute or so, finish what you're saying, and go back.
Well, basically what we're saying is that there is a citizen business partnership, which is a potential for a very strong input into what the city, because we are aligned, we are totally consistent with what the city is trying to do. We also understand as a chamber that it is very important, both from a livability, a sustainability, and the vision of the city. If we're going to attract businesses, if we're going to retain the businesses we already have, and if we're going to be able to expand and bring other revenue streams, even the tourist and convention business bureau type revenue stream.
At our next work session, maybe in a few weeks, a couple of weeks, maybe by then maybe the chamber's got a little more activity and foundation. I'd like to have a presentation from the chamber too.
We would love that. Thank you.
So keep us informed. When do you think you might want to get that? We don't think you might be ready to do that. And we'll put you on the agenda. We'll have we need to hear, because it's one of the first things we need to have. We got to have a chamber. It's important to the future of the city, not only for our residents but for our businesses. So, and appreciate your work.
And
thank you.
Very much wanted to appreciate the chamber input and have a fear early in the process. It's moving too quickly that we lose controls and things. I'd like to have Jacob as the point on this, so that the city can understand that we're moving forward with our message, and then to the extent we have other things added on that, that will be done going forward. But I want to make sure that we have some control, so it doesn't I don't say hijack, so that it doesn't end up spread out too much. We need to.
I think it's an excellent offer. The pro bono part of it, we certainly do appreciate. I do agree with Jim. I think we coordinated under Jacobs. It'll help keep it centralized.
And actually, we've already had some preliminary discussions earlier
This
this
is
week.
exciting about the Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be very, very beneficial for the city long term.
And does anyone have any questions on the IT component out here for you? Because I've been working very closely, obviously, since It was my initial design that we're implementing in the city.
They're doing such a good job, I don't have any questions.
Yeah, it's all up and running.
I do. I have a question on the IT side. I think it's extremely important for our different divisions within the government, within the city, that our databases can cross-communicate. So are the different databases, let's say for community development and potential parks and rec, are those databases going to be able to communicate?
Yes, the interconnectivity, not only within the internal databases that we're going to collect within the city, but external databases that we need to interlock and interface with. For example, if you've got a police presence in a interlocking or interconnected database, and there is an action occurring in Sandy Springs and the subject is fleeing from Sandy Springs coming into Brookhaven, we want to know about that in real time rather than someone having to make a phone call to somebody else later. Another type of interlocking database is where you're going to have let's take security, access, and control, even for City Hall, for example. You're going to have traffic data that is going to be interlocking. So we designed the system in such a way, and because we're using as a vendor Interdad that has done Dunwoody and Sandy Springs, we are going to be combining all of those databases so that there is seamless interchange between wherever the originating of the data is and where the action has to occur. That is critical. Same thing is critical with the phone system. The voice over IP system that has been installed has to have interlocking capability and interoperability capability, because if you're going to go from a department to a department to a department through a help desk or through a call center of some kind, you need to be able to track that call from its origination to the incident to the resolution so that everybody can see it. I'm sorry, long answer, but
Thank you. Good.
we're on it.
We got a few more minutes. Bob, Aaron's here.
Yes.
Can you go now?
Oh, absolutely. Unless anybody has any-
Yeah, two quick points. One, when we get back to that distribution of information to our constituents, within District 3, we've got several really large email distribution groups. And I mentioned the other day to you that I would like for us to be proactive in pushing this information out to our citizens until we have a system set up where we have our own list. So I just want to make sure that we do the same thing with all of the districts, that we, as a council, I guess, give you those contacts to the neighborhoods so that we can get as wide a reach to the citizens as possible.
Do we think, how do we want to handle that? Do we want the information to come to us and then we just disseminate it, or do we want to link? And I guess, I know for ours, we have the same large neighborhood groups,
right.
And there may be some pushback from some people if that, if a link to that is given to the city.
We want to give our.
Yeah, exactly. We as members can push it.
Right.
If we get the information.
Is there a
So you
protocol?
said you've got yours already committed.
From the conversations I've had with our neighborhood association presidents, they've said, give our contact, presidents of the neighborhood association, contact to the city manager, and then these messages can be sent to those neighborhood association presidents, and then they can decide how they disseminate that
As
information.
long as you have unsubscribed function too, so they don't want that.
And that's anything we send out, the first few, say, hey, you present just to the president, he's just sent to the membership, then those people individually say, put me on that list.
Right, I think that's a core component in that communications lesson. Have a plan to build up our own.
So if anybody's neighborhoods want to talk about that, we need to get everybody on board.
How about if we select the heads of homeowners associations, we can lead on that? Communicate.
That's fine, since we're already building that database to contact us folks. With contact us, we feel that is their opt-in. Please reach out and communicate with me via email and share their email address.
Right.
And there'll always be an opt-out opportunity when we send out a newsletter or any type of information. If you don't want to receive this, hit unsubscribe and we'll take it off the list. That's fine. But please do share that at those contact names if we can add them to our ongoing database.
Is there any problem with us individually just communicating directly in a little newsletter form with our constituents, or do you want us to go through, or?
My feeling is that the most that we can communicate with one voice is the preferred method. However, you have a responsibility as a council person to communicate and talk with your constituents. I don't think that there should be a gate on that. I think that you should have that opportunity as a council person to do that. But, you know, and I know other cities have vehicles, whether it's a blog or another citizen, who takes those communiques and puts them on their own blog or sends everybody word that, hey, I just received an update from Williams, so I thought everybody would be interested. So this is passing along back.
We talked a little bit about timelines, but do you have an overall communications department timeline for like what we're prioritizing at startup?
Actually, yes, and that's a good point. Our key communications director, who will be joining on January 2nd, has worked with the commission, the governor's commission, on a, for lack of a better term, on a pre and post communications activities for once the city became up and running. And she's actually already detailed a list. She's a Brookhaven resident. Tisa Moore is her name, and she's volunteered time on the commission up until the RFPs were led. But she's put together a great step-by-step of things to consider, things to do, and things to make sure that we're crossing off our list once the city is up and running. So to answer that question, yes, and she's the person who kind of dealt that with the commission, so it works well. She's been very involved in the process.
Aaron, you want to present?
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
You and Aaron have spoken, I guess, Bob.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so those who don't know me, my name is Aaron Bonham. As a resident of Brookhaven, one of the things that's been really important to me for a long time is to have a very engaged community with the local city government. And so a few months ago, I started investigating mechanisms and methodologies and the current state of affairs and technology for how we can try to encourage that as much as possible. What I found was that there are two vendors that are not specific contractors that specialize in communications, but instead they're off-the-shelf tools that can be used to be able to do this. Now, one of them is being used by Dunwoody and some other communities. It's a tool called C-Click-Fix. It's about, hey, I want to report that I got a pothole here, or I have, this kind of problem in my neighborhood, and I just want to report it to my local city. That company, I've talked to representatives from that company, and one of the things that they have tried to do, they were bootstrapped out of New Haven, Connecticut, and they are trying to build something that just handles potholes and that's it. And at the company, they're trying to grow so that they just kind of go to the state level, so they just can solve pothole problems across an entire state. And it's very vertical focused. Another company that I actually found extremely interesting, is the reason I'm here, is a company called Public Stuff. Public Stuff came out of some advanced research projects out of New York City.